I'm Angel, 28, standing in the middle of my childhood living room, the air thick with tension. I stared at my father, Mr. Thompson, 58, a man who had always seemed a mystery to me. His face was pale, eyes wide with a mix of shock and regret as he processed my words. Starting immediately, I'm cutting off all financial assistance to this household, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside me. My mother, Mrs. Thompson, 55, sat on the sofa, her hands covering her face, sobs racking her body. The family photos on the mantle, once a symbol of togetherness, now seemed like a mockery. That leather portfolio I had bought for my father, sitting untouched on the table, felt like a wasted gesture. It all started when I, a marketing coordinator at a top-tier firm, landed the biggest promotion of my career. I was on cloud nine, eager to share the news with my parents. I could still feel the excitement coursing through me as I drove to their house, the keys to my Honda Civic jingling in my pocket. Growing up in the suburbs, I was the golden child. I remember the old oak tree in our backyard, where I used to read books and dream of a future that would make my father proud. My father, a meticulous accountant at a mid-sized firm, was always strict and reserved. He would come home from work, his briefcase in hand, and sit at the dining table, reviewing tax returns with a serious expression. My mother, on the other hand, was the warm heart of the family. She would bake cookies, and the smell of freshly baked goods would fill the house. Every Sunday after church, we would sit around the dining table, just like we did tonight. The mahogany table, polished to a shine, was a constant in our lives. In high school, I was involved in everything. I was the president of the student council, the captain of the debate team, and a member of the honor society. I volunteered at the local hospital, always striving to be the best. When I graduated as valedictorian with a full scholarship to a prestigious university, I thought I had finally earned my father's pride. But his response was always lukewarm. "It's a good start, Angel. University will be the real test," he would say. In college, I majored in business with a minor in communications. I was on the dean's list every semester, did internships at well-respected companies, and held leadership positions. I graduated summa cum laude and landed a job at a top marketing firm. Despite my success, my father's praise was always hard to come by. 3 years into my career, I was promoted to marketing coordinator. I handled major campaigns, managed teams, and exceeded my targets. My colleagues respected me, and my boss relied on me. But at family dinners, my father would listen to my updates with a neutral expression, like he was just going through the motions. 6 months ago, I was assigned to lead a high-stakes campaign for a manufacturing company. It was a challenging project, but I worked day and night. I remember the late-night brainstorming sessions in my office, the coffee cups piling up on my desk. Finally, I came up with a breakthrough idea that resonated with the target audience. The campaign was a huge success, and I was promoted to senior marketing coordinator. I was overjoyed. I made reservations at an upscale restaurant where my parents had celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. I bought my mother a silk scarf and my father the leather portfolio. As I drove to their house, I rehearsed different ways to share the news. When I arrived, my mother greeted me with a warm hug. "Angel, you look wonderful," she said, her eyes shining with love. My father, as usual, gave me a nod. "Hello, Angel. Traffic wasn't too bad, I hope," he said. During dinner, the conversation was the same as always. My mother updated me on neighborhood gossip, and my father talked about property values and local taxes. After dinner, I cleared my throat. "I have some news to share. I got promoted to senior marketing coordinator," I announced, watching their faces intently. My mother gasped and reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "That's fantastic, Angel. I'm so proud of you," she said. I turned to my father, waiting for the moment I had dreamed of. But he just nodded slowly. "That's good, Angel. More responsibility usually means longer hours, though," he said. I tried to share more details about the promotion, the salary increase, and my new team. But his response was cold. Then, when I suggested a weekend getaway and brunch, his expression changed. You think throwing money around is going to solve everything, don't you? He said, his voice sharp. I was shocked. Dad, I just wanted to share my success with you. I thought you'd be happy for me, I said, my stomach clenching with confusion. He let out a bitter laugh. Angel, do you have any idea what it's like to watch your daughter succeed while you're barely keeping your head above water? He said. I was stunned. I had no idea they were having financial problems. He then revealed that his firm had laid off half of its staff 6 months ago, and my mother's medical bills were sky high. They had been living off credit cards, and they had even spent my college fund, the money they had saved for 18 years. I felt betrayed. That money was mine. You told me it was my inheritance, I said, my voice shaking. My father's voice grew louder. You're 28 years old, Angel. You have a career and your own apartment. What do you need an inheritance for? I stood up, my anger rising. It's about trust. It's about honesty. How could you spend that money without telling me? I said. He then unleashed a torrent of resentment. He said that if he could go back, I'd never be born. He talked about the plans he and my mother had before I was born, the promotions he had missed out on, and the trips they never took. I felt like my world was shattering. All the pieces of my childhood suddenly fit together in a horrible way. The lukewarm responses, the emotional distance, it was all because he resented my existence. I looked around the room, at the old Afghan on the sofa, the family heirloom that had been passed down through generations. It all seemed so empty now. I pulled out my phone and showed him the money I had given them over the years. You've been living off my generosity while resenting my existence, I said. I then made the decision to cut off all financial support. I couldn't keep being the scapegoat for his failures. I picked up my purse, the keys to my apartment jingling, and headed towards the door. As I stood on the threshold, I turned back. If you ever decide that you actually want a relationship with me based on mutual respect and genuine affection, you know my number, I said. The drive back to my apartment was a blur. I called my boyfriend, Jake, 29, a software engineer. He was at my door within minutes, the bottle of wine in his hand a symbol of comfort. He said if he could go back, I'd never be born, I said, my voice flat. Jake pulled me into a hug. Angel, that says everything about him and nothing about you, he said. In the following weeks, I felt a strange mix of grief and liberation. I found a therapist, Dr. Miller, who helped me understand that my father's resentment was his own issue. 3 weeks later, my mother called. Angel, your father wants to apologize, she said. I was hesitant. I needed to know if he really wanted a relationship or if he just missed the money. 4 months later, my father called me directly. We met at a small cafe near my office. He looked older, more tired. I was wrong, Angel. About everything, he said, his voice filled with humility. I considered his words. Dad, I'm willing to try, but it has to be different. I'm not going to chase your approval anymore, I said. He nodded. I understand. I'm proud of you, Angel, for having the strength to stand up for yourself, he said. Rebuilding trust took time. But gradually, we started to develop a real relationship. A year later, when Jake proposed to me in the park where we first met, I called my father first. Angel, I'm so happy for you. You deserve all the love in the world, he said. My career continued to thrive. I was promoted to marketing director and eventually started my own consulting firm. I learned that real love is about celebration, not resentment. And I surrounded myself with people who were glad I existed, like the keys that unlock the door to a new, happier life.